All right, folks, we've got a conversation going on about world politics and all along those lines. And of course, the big political thing is the debate coming up. So I've got Rick Rosner with me. We're going to see what he's got to say about the debate and all along those lines. But yeah, a lot of folks are excited and looking forward to the debate and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I've heard that people have prepped, and I've even heard that the vice president for Trump may be in the audience. Who knows whether that will be the case or what's going on. But in a couple of hours, there'll be a lot of people glued to their TV watching the debates. I know I've been glued to my TV watching it. I just saw that way on a non-political front that both of my folks from my alma mater have made it into the NBA. So we weren't sure about Oso, but he just got picked by Portland. And before that, it looks like Tyler Kolek will be playing for the Knicks. I think he was drafted by somebody else, but now he'll be playing for the Knicks and all along those lines. But I know Sasha's here with us, and we're going to talk about politics and what's going on with this debate and what we expect from the debate in a couple of hours. So what are you two folks expecting from the debate, and what do you think will transpire? And we'll find out later on who actually wins, and I'm sure all the pundits will make their decisions as to who won, who lost, and what the outcome was. And of course, I think there'll be maybe some responses from both sides of the aisle. But what are you two gentlemen looking for in the debate, and what are you expecting them to talk about? Because a lot of people are wondering what they will say about world issues and world conflicts like that in Ukraine and that in Israel, but
no specific issue is as important as hoping Trump loses his shit, looks incoherent. Like the fear of, I think, the 2/3 of Americans who aren't in Trump's base is that Trump will somehow manage to keep it together for 90 minutes and look reasonable, and continue to hold his lead in the polls. That is scary to us because he's obviously unfit to be president.
Sasha, what's your take? What are you looking for in the debate?
When it's debate, and you can compare it to, for example, sporting event, okay? Can you imagine the grandmaster, world champion, playing chess with sixth grader who is not well prepared and doesn't know his opening, doesn't know anything. This is where Trump and Biden are. Biden is a seasoned politician who has enormous experience, understanding of domestic issues, the foreign policy issues, and almost anything you touch. It could be immigration, it could be just almost anything. And on the other hand, you have convicted felon with the intelligence of 14 years old, the best, who has been convicted and tried and lost his Senate and House and presidency, and impeached twice, and despicable low-life con man. And somehow people are expecting, debate, this guy will say this, and that guy will say this. But look at to begin the debate, I even don't know how they can be on the same stage. Now, the question only is if Biden will be in a forum reminding his latest State of the Union address, and even last year's Union address, which was also very, very good. Then Trump has to just leave the stage, run away, and just cry baby and just denounce his candidacy for presidency. Now, if Biden will not be in the greatest form of peace, okay, so that will be some kind of an event when both are handicapped, or maybe Biden will get tired very early, or he will have some problem with his speech here and there. Uh, Trump, he cannot exceed himself, especially if he doesn't read from teleprompter and he will have to answer the questions and so on. I don't expect much from Trump. Period.
But the trouble is, when a sixth grader plays a grandmaster, the sixth grader could open stupid move, and the grandmaster just gets a little, like flustered, and the sixth grader gets lucky.
For 5 seconds, just it will last exactly 5 seconds before the grandmaster will reply. That's it.
Okay, but so Trump has done 5 previous one-on-one presidential debates, 3 against Hillary, 2 in 2020 against Biden. After each debate, various polling companies, CNN, Ipsos, YouGov, run polls. Who do you think won the debate? In about 24 post-debate polls, Trump has never won a single poll. He's been obviously crappier than the other person every time. So
Rick, that being said, and I know none of us here are actually on that side of politics, but let's just say that right now it is a couple of hours before the debate and everything. And if you were to give some advice to both of the candidates, and this will get us to kind of like give some thoughts even to what their advisors may be saying, whether we like them or not. So I'll start with you, Rick, but I definitely want to hear from Sasha as well. I may even give some of my speculation. But if you were to give advice to Donald Trump and Joe Biden, what would that advice be? So what would
I would tell Joe Biden to be mean to Trump. Say, you're a rapist. You've been shown in court to have raped a woman and accused by 26 other women. You're a disgrace to America. But also like hit some policy positions.
He would be outside of country with his criminal record. He wouldn't be even admitted to the United States, by the way.
And talk about 2020, the worst year in U.S. history since World War II. 1 million dead from COVID, and not from 500,000 dead from COVID. More people without jobs than in any other time in U.S. history before or since. Just a terrible, terrible year. And that was Trump's year. That was...
So both of you...
just a moment, Mark. What's interesting is that the demagogues from the Republican Party, they're saying, do you feel better now than 4 years ago? They have a nerve even to compare it. Now with the economy booming, the stock market is flying and so on, the economy is not so good. Oh, when we're going to the grocery store, so the bread costs extra 3 cents. And at the gas station, now we have to pay extra 25 cents to fill up the...
But I don't think Biden can gloss over that. I think he has to say something like, I feel your pain. I know things are more expensive. And I'm working to try to address that. And he can say that
in the right directions, by the way.
You need to do that and everything. But Rick, you said something that I've seen some of the ads, and that seems to be what they try to do in the ads. But is it a good move to go that far on the offensive and everything, and kind of like tear in the candidate? Because some people like that, and some people find that offensive for whatever reason. So I'm wondering,
right, yes, so it may offend some people, but also it may have the effect of making Trump mad, and when Trump gets mad, he loses control. So it's probably a risk worth taking, because you don't want a Trump who's in control, who stays reasonable the whole time, who kind of just, he gets this face like he's very satisfied with himself when he's not going crazy. He gets like a little smirk. You don't want that smirk the whole time that says, see, I can behave myself. You want him to lose his shit.
Well, the best one is just to ask him directly, what were you thinking when you were raping this woman? What were your thoughts that you can rape and get away with it? And how did you enjoy yourself? How Tell us more about that, your experience.
Yep, they could go in that direction. It could be that's the way that they go and everything. I mean, one of the first questions I think the host will ask them, and early, and that's basically the debate host, is what their agenda is. And as I've said on a couple of shows, I have not seen enough of a Trump agenda. I hear people talking about Project 2025, which some people say is the Republican agenda. But if you were to, what do you expect them to say they will do when they start their either second term in the case of Biden or a return term in the case of Trump? So what do you think they are thinking that the people want to hear and everything? Because I agree with both of you.
Well, Trump will
The
say
economy is better
Trump
than
has
you're
two
giving
things to say. Trump will say, we had no inflation under me, and when I'm president again, inflation will once again go to zero, and once again illegal immigration will go to zero. Nobody will get to cross the border, and both those things are lies.
And one more thing, you forgot abortions will go to zero in Trump's.
And also the Ukraine war will end. I will fix it within a day of once I'm yeah.
Well, he's already, Sasha, he's already said that because, like I said on one of our other news shows, it might have been yesterday, I did hear him say that Wall Street reporter, that as soon as he is elected, that Wall Street reporter will be back home and everything. So he's already promised that. And I know that he's also promised that the war will end rapidly, and that war has been going on for a number of years and everything. So
2.5.
he already made an agreement with Putin that if he wins, Evan, and I forgot Evan's last name, will be released, because right now Evan's under trial there in Russia, and he's already said, "Don't worry, just sit tight, because as soon as I get elected, I will free you, and you'll be back home."
Yeah, of all the things he could say, that may be closest to the truth, because if Trump becomes president again, then U.S. aid to Ukraine becomes much less certain, and Ukraine may want to negotiate, and before its position deteriorates under Trump.
Yeah. What's your take?
Sasha knows more about that than I do.
Well, I've heard yesterday the latest plan for Ukraine prepared by Trump's very close ally, and that's what he okay, he will get together, or he will talk one-on-one first to Putin. He will say to Putin, stop war, and if you don't, then I will provide so much weapons to Ukraine that you will lose the war very quickly. No, Zelensky. Okay, you stop the war. Okay, whatever Russians grab the territory, just leave it to Russians, forget about it. And in this case, if you will not listen to me, I will stop any help to you, no weapons, no financial help, nothing at all. However, if you will listen to me, then we will supply as much as possible the weapons, the financial help, or so. I just don't understand one very simple thing. If Ukraine listen to Trump and stop fighting, and Putin on the other hand listen to Trump and stop fighting, why would you supply Ukraine incredible number of weapons and financial help and so on? Why? The war is over, so why Ukraine would need so much weapons from us? And I couldn't resolve this issue, which is quite simple.
Because like Trump does not have, he's not a good thinker.
But this is school children would pick up on that, because, okay, so you're saying you will not supply weapons to Ukraine, you will continue to fight. However, if stop fighting, then you will provide enormous amount of weapons, ammunition, and help. That doesn't make any sense. It's just only idiots could come up with such a plan.
Well, there are two other issues that I think will come up in the debate. I could be wrong, but we do know that Jill Biden is a educator, and as part of the education group. And I think that at some point there will probably be some conversations around the state of education in the United States, just like there'll be some conversations around the state of how we're handling energy and all in that space, and even climate. So I'm wondering y'all's thoughts as to whether those should be topics, and if they are topics, which way should they go in those conversations. I think the last debate, both of those issues came up in addition to some of the worldwide issues that are going on as well. But I just wanted y'all's take on those issues as well as farming, because I imagine that all three of those will come up at some point or another.
So Trump will claim that Biden shut down oil production.
Right.
And Biden will say oil production we've produced more oil in the past 3 years than in any point in Trump's presidency, which is true. And and then Biden will say, we do need to address climate change.
But what about education? Because I know the network and Nick and Kim are very big on that, as are other people here as part of the networks. And like I said, Jill, the First Lady, is definitely part of that education class. So what do we think will be said around education? Because there's been a lot of conversation around whether the right things are being taught in school, and whether that's the grade level or even on the college level. So what is our take on?
I don't know. I haven't heard Biden talk about education, but I personally think that that STEM education, tech education, has made the U.S. a dominant country for the past 50 years, and that needs to continue. But I don't know, does Biden talk like that?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about education. Education is too broad term to really meaningfully to discuss it, because I think if people will have a foundation, their math skills, their English skills, and most importantly, desire to learn new things, they will find out. If desire is there and foundation is there, they will find out what they would like to do. And if they'd like to do it, they have to learn about it as much as possible. Information is available everywhere, on internet, on YouTube. Just find it, it's there. So education by itself, to me, is empty sound. It doesn't mean anything. In fact, if people don't want to be educated, and a lot of people don't, how you educate somebody who doesn't want to be educated? You just don't. You're talking about on the shows about the financial literacy or so. How are you going to teach financial literacy an idiot who doesn't care about financial literacy or any other literacy, and he just want to play some video games and some other foolish stuff? So how are you going to do it? So to me, education is empty sound. I don't care about it.
If Trump does talk about education, he will sensationalize it. He'll say that public school students are being taught to be trans. They're being taught socialism. He'll hit all these hot button things, and that we need, to return American education to the parents. And
he may even come out and support what Louisiana did, and I have my own opinions about that. But Louisiana is now saying that every public school system is supposed to have a copy of the 10 Commandments in the front of their classroom, whether you are Christian or whether you belong to another religious group, or maybe you aren't even religious at all. So I think that even if you are atheistic or agnostic, that you're still supposed to, as a school kid, be looking at that 10 Commandments.
If he says that, he'll say these are just the rules that America was built on. Right. And which is not true. That's not what America was, built on, anything from the Bible. But he'll say that, and for a certain percentage of people, they'll go, yeah.
Yeah, and there will be some of that. But one of the other things that has been going on, because he's come here, or at least folks from his administration, and we've kind of alluded to it on other shows, I imagine there'll be a lot of conversations, both positive and negative, about infrastructure. And that's one of those issues that some people, kind of like what you're saying, Sasha, are very much adamant about and very excited about, but a lot of it is very nuts and bolts kind of work because it's the roads and it's the bridges, but it's also in some ways something that you're big on, Rick, which is technology, because some of it is about the internet and the exposure and how much exposure we have to the internet.
So what Trump
infrastructure conversations will be part of the debate. I have no
Trump
doubt.
will say that he didn't get any infrastructure. If Biden accuses him of no infrastructure,
Right.
Trump will say, A, I had infrastructure. B, if I didn't, it's because the Democrats stopped me. And C, the wall is infrastructure, and I built the wall.
Did he?
No, he didn't. He built like 3 miles of new wall where there was previously no wall.
And Mexicans paid for this 3 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he'll claim. He'll claim that they paid for it and all on those lines. Speaking of which, I'm sure that will be a hot discussion in the debate, and what do we think he should be said and will be said around immigration, because I do know there's been a lot of
Trump will say that 12 million people have streamed into America illegally, including terrorists, rapists, murderers, and that it's out of control. And under me, we had 0, and he'll say a lot of BS, and but he'll probably score some
fact checkers on the debate.
The fact checkers usually come after the fact. They don't do it during the debate, my understanding, because the 2 rules were that they will be muted, so we won't hear them. But we may see them lipping things to each other, but we're not supposed to hear it. And then he's supposed to, meaning Trump, is supposed to have the last word. I've been fortunate, knock on wood, even though I've got family members that have not been as fortunate. But I imagine another major conversation point is going to be around healthcare, because but
Biden about the border. Biden will say, "I put together a border bill that had bipartisan support, and you, Trump, told the Republicans to scuttle it because it would help me politically." He'll say something like that. He'll say, "You care more about yourself and getting reelected than you do about America."
And the only reason he wants to be reelected is to avoid trials and jail terms. That's his only reason why he's fighting for the presidency. There are no other reasons. He has no clue how to govern. He has no clue about the needs of Americans, just his own needs. And his own need is to stay out of prison.
No, that's definitely something I can see, Sasha, and everything. Do you think that you think Biden should take it to him about what he said about the host city? Because like I said, I did go to school way back when in Milwaukee, and he has said some negative things, even though that's the host city for him and everything, because I think Chicago is the host city.
The debate is only 90 minutes. Right. There are 2 commercial breaks. There's the asking of questions, each of them will only be able to talk for, 30, 35 minutes. They won't be able to hit everything.
Right.
And also, it's in all these debates, the debaters often don't answer the questions they're asked. They answer the questions they want to answer.
Oh, no, there's a lot of that goes on in debates, because you are asked a question and you choose not to answer it and to skirt the issue and answer what you feel like answering. I've seen that even in debates on various levels, even like high school and competitive debates. So yeah, that's a very common debate strategy. So I expected we'll see a lot of evasions of questions.
And each of them probably has their top 5 talking points, the 5 things they have to say, and they'll try to jump on a question that's close to one of the points and then turn it that direction.
Yeah, turn it in the direction they want to and everything. And I'm sure there'll be some, you kind of alluded to it, Rick, but do you think that they should attack the other individuals' parties? Because there has been a lot of conversations, and one of the things that I've said that has frustrated me even when I watch television is how some of the ads are skewed toward not policies, but skewed toward attacks. And it's like this.
No, I mean, what you want to say? No, that Biden could say something like, Trump said there were good people on both sides during the Charlottesville riot protest thing, and which was not good, but
Yeah,
Biden could say, that there are plenty of Republicans who are good people, but your leaders are locked in behind Trump, even when Trump makes bad decisions. I don't know if that'll.
but just about every ad that you see now, and I'd love to hear both you and Sasha's thoughts, give you the impression, and I heard even Shaquille say this one time, that at the end of the day, we will survive or not survive one of these presidencies. But it seems like a lot of times you get this idea that it is basically like the ultimate combat, and that if you go one way or the other, that this could be the beginning of the end of civilization. If you hear some of the ways that the ads are tilted, and I don't know that I necessarily, but it's like it's that whole notion that this is the battle for the soul of America, and I've heard
Yeah,
that.
but probably more important than anything like that is to play it safe to a certain extent, to avoid huge factual errors on Biden's part, to avoid getting tangled up in his sentences and his stutter so that he sounds incoherent, which he doesn't do a lot. He's pretty careful when he sets out to say a sentence. He'll say, he'll set himself up to get through it. He has these verbal tics that I don't like. Like he'll say, "I'm serious. I'm not kidding." But those things, I think, serve to help him deal with his stutter.
Yeah.
He says them too much. It's like when somebody says, or
or folks. Let him tell you something. But
Right.
listen, I'm telling you, what I feel is that half dead Biden, who cannot move, who cannot speak, is much better choice than alive Trump. That's all what I want to say.
But Biden hasn't been half dead. In his public appearances, he is, he's not mumbly. Now what he does is he's got a big range between sometimes he's shouting and sometimes he talks softly, but it's never because he's losing it to dementia. It's because that's the way, I assume he's been talking to the public for his whole career. And he's kind of known for not being the best public speaker, but I think he's fine. He's not frickin' Abraham Lincoln, but he gets his points across.
Yeah, he does get his points across. Hey, Sasha, just out of curiosity, because I've had people ask me both on part of the network as well as not part of the network, and I don't know the answer, so I'm going to ask you directly and everything. What is the reason that you are so adamantly against Trump? And given I don't like Trump either, I know Rick doesn't like him that much either, but I've had people ask me, including some of our other anchors and everything. I'm going like, I don't know the answer, but I will ask Sasha one time directly. So I'm asking you directly, what about Trump is it that you don't like?
Thank you, Mark. I've read almost all published books on Trump. And from his early years, he was involved in quasi-criminal activities, even when he was still a very young man. For example, when they were building some of his buildings in New York, they were using, believe it or not, illegal workers. Most of these workers at the time, I'm talking about 70s, early 80s, they were immigrants from Poland. They were living right there in absolutely inhuman condition. They would, there is a cement, so they were getting sick. And some of them, and a lot of them, from I don't know exact numbers, they were not even paid. Because
he loved the illegals because he could stiff them and they had no recourse.
Absolutely. And even his contractors, he would say, well, okay, here is take 5 cents on the dollar. That's all what I'll give you. If you are not happy, go to courts and you will go there for 20 years and I will squeeze you and you will declare bankruptcy and there will be no life for you. Take this 5. Okay, I'll give you 10 cents on the dollar. Go away.
If you add up all the bank, the lenders, the contractors, the workers that the Trump family has stiffed, it adds up to about 1.5 billion. They may be America's biggest deadbeat family.
Absolutely. Then he started quite early play with the idea of one day maybe become president. But prior to that, he became a Russian asset, a KGB asset. How that happened? He needed to buy television sets, about 200 television sets for his hotels that he just built. And somebody introduced him to one shop in Manhattan, which was run by Russian emigre who had ties with KGB. Why? Everybody knows that he had ties because all the spies and all the different functionaries, when they were coming to New York, of course, at that time, you had to bring some presents back home from New York. And one of the best presents was a colored TV, which had both systems. It had the Pulsicom European system and American HCTV, I think. I don't remember the exact name. So, and that's why in that shop they wore this television sets with both systems. So when Trump started to bargain for the television set, so the owner, he told him, look, for the same money, I will equip your hotel with television sets that have both systems, European and North American system. I will not comment on what else was built in for these television sets because they were supplying all the spies and they were installing television sets and they could get a lot of additional information for those people who were monitoring these television sets. However, the only one, so Trump asked for, okay, he liked the deal, he got the prizes, so he asked for terms of payment. So the owner told him, okay, here's the deal. You have to pay, take the television sets, you don't have to pay anything now. But by, I think it was October 30th, you have to pay your bill in full. October 31st is not going to work. October 30th, okay? You remember that? Now go away and take your television sets or we'll deliver them and install or so on. So from that point on, Trump became a very juicy asset for KGB because he was from a prominent family that while being young, there was a lot of promises that he will move up in society or so on. Of course, at that time, there was no talk about presidency, but by 1987, he made his first trip to Soviet Union. And of course, people in Moscow knew who he is, and they had very elaborate the conditions for him to stay in Moscow, and they took him around and looked after him, and so on. And then in the 90s, when he had all these calamities with his Atlantic City hotels, 6 bankruptcies, and by the year 2000, no American bank would touch Trump or his business or anything. He was completely distributed, he was completely undone, and financially, not only he squandered all $400 million that his father left to him, he was penniless and he was in debt of about $250,000.
Well, let's talk about how he got in. He opened 3 casinos at once in Atlantic City, which is it's a bad city to try. Atlantic City was on the decline. Vegas was on the rise. But 3 means you're competing against yourself for the same small gamblers, which is just super dumb.
Yeah, well, at that time, of course, he has a system of buses that would deliver all those gamblers from New York.
Yeah, but they're old. They're old people with $200 to gamble instead of.
Exactly. So a friend of mine, he was traveling.
I'm supposed to meet Biden today with Richard and these guys at 2 a.m. on the tarmac. So I don't know how the hell.
Yeah, you got a big deal. You got a big rally. Mark's not right here right now, but you've got a big
tonight. Yeah, one of our clients, Ken Jaron, is
Dave, we can hear you.
Hey, I gotta go. Let me call you back.
So,
hey, gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Sorry I'm late. I wanted to just say hi to everybody and be on the show today before the debate. I want to thank everyone for coming. Big night tonight. I'll be meeting the president at 2 a.m. this morning. That's all I've been told. I have no idea how I'm going to be awake at that time. I'm probably not going to go, but it's exciting, and I don't know. It's going to be a big night for him. I think he's got a lot riding on this. And meanwhile, I don't know. We talked about it this morning, but what if you were a betting man? Who do you think?
I am $2 at a time. I made so many $2 bets that the online bookie has put a lock on this wager. I think it's because there's some kind of limit of the number of times you can bet on one thing.
Sasha, what is the sentiment in Canada? Just in terms of, are you guys looking at America just like what the heck is going on over here? I mean.
Well, it's hard to say. Some people don't care about the debate, and some people don't even know anything about debate. Some people are following this and are going to watch tonight. There's no opinion.
Canada is a beautiful country. It's got a lot going for it. I mean, I could see a lot of people just saying, I'm going to go up north, go to Canada, right? Live in Toronto or, any.
Very few people, I'll tell you, among my friends. Even, a few years ago, some of them were thinking about moving to U.S. sooner or later, maybe to Florida or maybe California or maybe somewhere else. And right now, I know of no one Canadian that is even considering moving to the United States.
We could flood you. There are 1/3 of a billion Americans, only 40 million Canadians. If things get crazy in the U.S., we could just we could do to Canada what Fox News says Mexico is doing to the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. And Shaquille Latimer, you look awfully pensive and quiet there. I mean, my advice to the president is he's just got to focus on message about how the economy is at least better with jobs and unemployment down in North Carolina at least. But he's got rising prices still in the gas stations, the grocery stores. He's got the left part of the party. I mean, it's and he's running against Donald Trump, who you never know what you're going to get. Although everyone's wondering how much he's going to talk about the conviction. I think he should stay away from that. Just focus on the issues. Don't go low. But we'll see.
We haven't heard from Shaquille at all.
Shaquille, why are you so quiet?
Well, look, I'm not gonna bag out Donald Trump. You guys have already done that for half an hour.
Yeah, that's true. It's been the give Donald Trump crap show.
Let's talk about what.
Well, yeah, but that gentleman is why I think why when I come on, I get labelled as some sort of Trump loving conservative. It's not because I'm a conservative. It's because what's the difference between us and MSNBC or CNN or any other media company? Like, okay, you don't like Donald Trump. We've got that. But you talk so much about his business failures and very little about his policies. The stuff that's been said about him moving.
May I clarify? Before you appeared, and Steve, Mark asked me a very direct question. Why you so much hate Donald Trump? Please explain. And that's all what I was doing, nothing else. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, Sasha, but on most shows it's the same thing. Now, you guys, the stuff like celebrity style, we're all going to move to Canada. Well, Trump won in 2016. Nobody moved to Canada, right? And for a while there, Justin Trudeau actually opened the border and said, hey, if you want to come up, because Canada's always pretty much open for immigration because they got such a big country and very little people there, and they'd like to have more immigration. So they've made it very easy for a lot of people. Australians, for example, can easily move to Canada. Nobody went up there. So, yeah, people just keep saying that. And like this election, for people to repeat all the same stuff that they said before the 2016 election, it doesn't have any validity to it. It's not something that's believable anymore.
Shaquille, I'd
Well,
like to mention something. With the global warming, Canada is becoming a beautiful, very livable country. It wasn't like that 10, 20 years ago, but now it's become Toronto. The winter in Toronto was absolutely beautiful. It's very seldom the temperature would go below 0 Celsius. Mostly it was up 5, 10 degrees. And February was very warm, 15, 19 degrees Celsius, remember.
So you can say it's if Trump gets reelected, it's you can run around with your arms on fire, and you can say it's the end of democracy. That's very kind of nebulous and generic, but there is one concrete achievement and effect of Trump being elected, and it'll be even more so if he's reelected, which is the judges and the justices. It's not unreasonable to say that if Trump gets reelected, then Alito and Thomas, who are both in their 70s, retire, and that lets Trump appoint new Alito and Thomas like justices who are in their 40s, who might be on the court for the next 50 years.
But Rick, the flip side of that is something you said earlier. Actually, I think it was on World Edition, which is that somebody that is perceived to be conservative may wind up turning it out to be more moderate than expected. Because I would argue that that's kind of what happened with Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah,
So,
Amy Coney Barrett,
overly conservative, but she seems like she's more moderate from what I am seeing.
Yeah, she belongs to some really hardcore Christian sect, and you'd think she'd be wackadoodle, but she's made a bunch of decisions that liberals are like, hey, that's cool.
What's the hardcore Christian sect that she belongs to?
I don't know. I can Google it.
I want to peel the onion away. I want to bring up something that Shaquille said today, and I agree that we shouldn't. And I'm Sasha. I'm not implying that, Sasha, you have every right to have your opinions, and we know why you don't like Trump. But I think we also have to look at Trump's appeal. What is making him appealing to American voters? And I think part of it is he's got high energy. He has identified himself with a loyal base of support that will take the sword for him. And many of them are white, non-educated voters in rural Americas who have not seen the Biden policies work. When he won in 2016, he had a coalition of Democrats, minorities, Hispanics, white Americans, what they call Reagan Democrats, that were also frustrated. And so, we have to look at, just like as a former tennis player, you have to look at the strengths of your opponent as well. And we often forget that Biden, they often call him the accidental president. The only two reasons he got in was Donald Trump and COVID. So I think he's got, a tall order. Now, that's not to say that, is he vindictive? I don't like what he's done in Georgia. He's been, these charges, all these crimes he's committed, whether or not, he's not guilty until he's proven guilty. But it does really make you wonder why he's putting himself and his family through this so much to be president again. So
I've already said, to avoid all these trials, including criminals, and avoid serving his time in prison. That's the only one reason why he's running for president. There is no other reason whatsoever.
All right. So Amy Coney Barrett belongs to People of Praise, which is just like a pretty, all right, I'm sure you could find articles that muckrake it or other articles that say it's like when I was in college, there was Church of Christ on campus, and they had people, doing worship stuff 5, 6, 7 days a week. The girls weren't supposed to be in the same dorm room as boys without a third person in the room, the door open, everybody had 1 foot on the floor, but it doesn't mean that, everybody in the group's a lunatic. And, I'm not one to judge. I'm not Christian at all. So I don't, I can't.
So, firstly, Sasha, that's exactly what you said about him back in 2016. Your last time he was the president, you said that he became the president in order to avoid going to jail. You're just saying the same thing again now. I don't think that anyone believes that he would have been prosecuted for all these things if he didn't run for the presidency. I think ego probably has a lot to do with why he's running, not what you're saying. But Steve, I think a lot of elections are referendums on people, right? Bill Clinton was able to beat George H.W. Bush for a couple of reasons. One, because George H.W. Bush did not have the personality and charisma of Ronald Reagan. But two, because he said, read my lips, no new taxes, and then immediately went back on it. So that damaged his credibility massively. Okay? Now, when we have a look at different elections that have occurred, they are often referendums on the person that's already there. Now, I would argue that Donald Trump's election was a bit of a referendum on the Clintons, and a bit of a referendum on the existing elite, which seems to be very out of touch with the everyday people. In 2020, I think most of us had agreed at the time that if it wasn't for COVID, Donald Trump would have won, and he would have won easily.
Yeah.
So, it was a referendum in part on Donald Trump and also a referendum in part on Donald Trump's handling of COVID. This election is probably going to be a referendum on Joe Biden. So that's the thing here. Joe Biden's going to have to make a pretty compelling case, given all of the things that people are complaining about. The people are complaining about inflation, they're complaining about immigration, and they're concerned that he is getting very old and, is looking old and looking tired. That's going to be a problem, and he has to try and overcome that.
And I think what will the second Trump presidency be? And I've got an article I've got in the car I've got to read from Time magazine, but I think it'll, that's what people need to ask. And, maybe, look, I agree that regardless of what happens, okay, America is going to be fine if Donald Trump wins. I hear these people, there are a lot of immigrants that live in Morrisville and Cary, and they come to me and say, can Donald Trump become a dictator? No, he can't. If he does win the presidency again, now what we don't know is if he is convicted while sitting in office, will he pardon himself? If it's a federal crime, will they wait until he finishes the presidency? But the bottom line is that if you win the presidency and you're in for another term, at noon that day, the oath of office is taken, and at 12:02, the office is power. You're no longer the president. And if you refuse to leave, the Secret Service will walk you out and cuff you. We're not a dictatorship. We don't do that in America. And I believe enough in our country's democracy. So for people to say, there's so many theories out there, people are like, well, I don't want to live in a dictatorship. It's not a dictatorship. He can't do that. That's not the way the presidency works. You can't just amend it. They were like, well, he's going to amend the Constitution. What?
People are also taking the things that he's saying and blowing them out of proportion, right? He was joking around with his base when he said, no, I only want to be a dictator for one day. He's joking around. We know that what he's like. You may not like his humor, but he doesn't want to be a dictator. That's not what he's suggesting. I mean, come on now. But I just want to come back to something about what I was going to say. There's a massive disconnect, and the more conservative a person is, or the more away from, normal. I get the more sort of rural somebody is, or whatever, the more they're going to feel disconnected from some of the liberal ideas from the big cities. So, for example, a lot of this gender non-binary LGBTQ stuff that's going on is going on everywhere. The person turns on the television, they see these people depicted in TV shows. They see them depicted in movies. Their kids watch TV and they see it there. It's they, them, pronouns, all this sort of stuff. And they're increasingly looking at it going, this is just not the world that I know. Like, what the hell is going on? And they blame this stuff on the Democrats. And so when Hillary Clinton came out and said, you can take half his supporters and put them in the deplorables, and they're sexist and racist and misogynist and homophobic and blah, blah, blah. That just was really off-putting to a lot of people. And I think that a lot of people are actually saying, hey, elites, back up a bit, because you're interfering with how I want to live my life, and you've come up with all this stuff that I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't care. and they're being made to feel like they're idiots by who they consider to be the elites. But the thing is, like, I travel all across the United States. They tell us that. I'll be back in a sec.
But
Yeah.
along
I'm
those
going
same
to close
kind
out
of
in 3 minutes, but yeah, this is going to be an interesting night, folks. A lot at stake. I think it's going to come down as I close out my message. It's been a turbulent era politically. I mean, I've never seen America so divided, people so gung-ho. The question is the argument. Joe Biden tonight has to make an argument, like Shaquille Latimer said, that he can do one more term as the president. He can turn America around, that these things on his watch. But we remember Jimmy Carter. It was a referendum on Carter in 1980. Will this be the same thing? But he's running against a man who's been convicted of a number of crimes, a man that did not respond well to the pandemic, a man that, yes, brought manufacturing jobs back, a president, but had a lot of things going against him and was replaced by Joe Biden. So what will happen? I think a lot of it will depend on the independents, swing voters, the persuadable voters in this country, and whether the base of traditional Democrats come out in big numbers.
So Carter did have like 3 semi-major missteps. One was he took the U.S. out of the Russian Olympics. He said, we're going to boycott the Olympics because Russia had invaded Afghanistan. That nobody liked that. Iran fell under Carter, and he ran a hostage rescue operation that completely failed. And then earlier in his presidency, he said, look, we all have to make sacrifices. Turn down your thermostats and put on a sweater. Nobody liked that. Reagan came along, said it's morning in America, and was like, we're not making sacrifices. We're going to drive SUVs. So you compare Carter to Biden. Biden had a major misstep with the Afghanistan withdrawal. And, he was slow to react to the border. And he didn't get inflation under control until lately. So we're looking at prices that are 20 to 25% higher than under Trump.
Hey Rick, a lot of them said last time
people are being told to sacrifice their lifestyles. People are being asked to sacrifice their lifestyles because of climate change. So that's another factor that people are getting quite concerned about. And some of these things are not. Some of these things are not federal issues. Some of these things are not federal issues. But when you see people in New York getting really upset that, hang on, what do you mean I can't have a wood-fired pizza or I can't have a gas-powered stove, things like that, what happens is they lump all of those issues in as like one group, and it just becomes okay. Well, that's the Democrats' fault.
Yeah, but
right.
Okay, but I mean, all those things. Yeah, Fox News tries to blame the Democrats, saying they're going to take away your stoves. They're going to make cows illegal. The Democrats aren't actually saying that stuff.
No, they're not. No, they're not saying it directly. But there's a lot of things. Like if you have a look at what's actually in the Green New Deal, some of it is just craziness. Some of it's not even going to work. When you look at things like, you can't have plastic straws anymore. The majority of the plastic that's in the ocean comes from fishermen's nets that have been left there. So if you're going to do something, put a tax on those fishermen's nets, because that's a real problem. It's affecting our oceans. But instead, you're going to try and do something about plastic straws, which represents like 0.0000001%. You know what I mean? These are the sort of stuff that I'm talking about. That people are getting very frustrated. And again, you got to put yourself in the mindset of like, if you're somebody who lives at semi-rural, you've maybe got a small farm or something like that, you don't have time for this stuff. You don't care about this stuff, and it's just the world's just becoming something that you can't recognize. And so what do? You just blame the Democrats for it.
Yeah, I mean, but so Biden has to make it clear. I mean, the Green New Deal wasn't Biden's deal. Biden has drilled more oil than Trump did. He broke a lot of campaign promises.
I know we got to close out, and I definitely want to.
Yeah, I got to close out, guys. I've got to run, get ready for tonight. I'm going to take a little rest.
The debate, so I want you to close out. I do sometimes wonder if the advantage that Trump has is that he's been a character forever. He was a character back with The Simpsons, so he does have that appeal to some degree to some people because he's been out there in that pop world forever and everything. So that is something that.
Well, I think as long as he doesn't come out and say something stupid or become too aggressive, I think that he'll be fine. But if he does come out and says something really aggressive, or goes after Hunter Biden too strongly, or goes after, Biden on personal things too much, then he's going to lose. I think Biden should try to have a few quick one-liners to try and throw Trump off his game. Because if Trump is able to stay calm and stay sort of, let's say, professional, for lack of better words, if he can look a bit more statesman-like, then I think he's probably got this sewn up. If he can get rattled, then I think that he could cause himself a lot of damage. And on Biden, he has to have some stamina. He can't trail off when he's trying to express a thought. And I think that Trump should actually ask him some direct questions that are going to be somewhat difficult to answer, and see what his responses are going to be.
Yep, absolutely. Hey,
I don't like this at all. I don't like suspense.
It's been a great show. Good luck. We'll talk on Monday. I will be out tomorrow, and let's watch the debate. So everyone, all eyes are on Biden and Trump. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't like it. Like I can't watch sports games that I care about because it makes me too nervous. I don't know if I'll be able to make it through this whole stupid debate.
Well, you've got a couple of hours before it's on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym and try to calm down.
Get everybody else, because we got Coco talking about entertainment very shortly, so we got to get out.